Extra, extra, read all about it. Man who dropped out of high school and never attended college denies science based on his feelings about women. Extra, extra, read all about it.
Hold on there, small urchin child. That sounds perfect for the podcast I'm about to do. Give me that paper.
Hey, that's 25 cents, man. This is why print media is dead.
Hello, and welcome back to Ruben Uncut. Today, I'm doing one of my favorite things, which is making fun of Tim Pool. Because Tim Pool is a surprisingly successful and yet pathetic person. But also, because the last time I made fun of Tim Pool, I specifically cited a recent piece of scientific research that has come out. Hilariously, I became aware recently that Tim Pool also took a look at that research. And he had some opinions. And just so you know, they weren't good ones. Now, here is Tim Pool. He's about to read this news article that I technically cite. I mean, I didn't technically cite this specific news article. I just cited the research that the news article is also going to cite. But Tim Pool does not seem convinced by this scientific research. In fact, the name he gave to this video is Woke Scientist Claims Women Are Better Hunters Than Men in Hilariously Wrong Report. Now, that is a title that makes some claims. In that title, he is claiming that the report is hilariously wrong. Let's see how he defines it as being wrong and how he justifies that conceptually. And also, hopefully, laugh at it.
Yes, it's patriarchy. That's right. The reason we believe that men are better hunters than women is because of patriarchy.
I don't know if that has actually been said anywhere. It is a common misconception that is probably based on some level of bias towards male ability. Well, let's continue.
Patriarchy. Men took the seats of power and then lied to women and tricked them into thinking they were not great athletes and endurance runners. That's the only explanation.
It's not the only explanation. There are so many explanations that it's mind-boggling. I think what Tim Pool here is doing is he's poisoning the well by creating a hyperbolic version of a feminist argument. You see, the reality is, a more realistic way to put this would be that for years, men being in charge has led to men making assumptions about their superiority, and that has weaved its way into our society. But he's making it sound like it's a conspiracy theory to make it sound, ludicrous.
Because according to the Daily Mail, debunking the myth of the male hunter.
The Daily Mail is a historically very conservative British rag of a newspaper, by the way. At least if the Daily Mail is the paper I think it is, then yeah, I don't. So that's funny too.
Prehistoric women were better at hunting than men, study claims. Women have long been seen as child rearers, while men are seen as hunters. Study claims prehistoric women practiced hunting and were better than men. Well, that proves it.
The new study claims that these cavemen paled in comparison. Okay, that is technical. He is paraphrasing the shit out of that wording, but that is technically what it's saying there.
It's a study. You see, I got to tell you, I think this is how you get politics and science. And then the people who are like, I believe the science. It's like, well, you're believing
So right now he is going to, without digging into anything, he's going to establish the concept that this is part of politics getting into science. Now, to prove that statement, he would have to scientifically disprove this argument or show in some way that the data was manufactured. Will he do that?
proselytizing from woke cultists who are injecting their...
From woke cultists. I'm sorry, I should be better than that. I shouldn't be making fun of how effeminate he sounded there for a second. I should be better than that.
worldviews into quote-unquote science to interpret it the way they want and then tell you what they think is true and have you believe it.
Okay, so he's starting out with a narrative. He's starting off by building a narrative before he even gets into the article to see what its points are. He is building a narrative against the article before exposing his viewers to it. Notice that.
Here's the reality. I hate to say it.
His use of the word reality is interesting choice because he wants you, his viewer, to think that he is telling you what reality is. Now, he will actually have to back that argument up if he wants to establish a real argument against these claims. Now, it's also worth noting that he is reading an article from the Daily Mail and not the research itself.
Men are better hunters than women. This study is stupid. And I am...
Men just are better. And, you know, this study is stupid. It's stupid. It's just better. Men are better.
I am a qualified scientist who can make this claim.
I understand that he's being ironic, but, like, he is literally the furthest thing you can say from a scientist.
That's right, because apparently if these people are claiming to be scientists, then certainly we all are. The argument they're...
Hold up. No, Tim, that's not how it works. If they have degrees and years of research and published papers, then they are scientists. You don't just get to say, well, I'm a scientist. It's not how it works, Tim. It's not how it works. You are basing an argument on nothing.
The argument they're making is that women are better endurance runners.
Because to sustain that argument, he would have to show us that these women are not, or well, actually, I'm assuming they're women who made this study. I actually just realized I don't know that for sure. But he would have to prove that the people who did the study aren't scientists to substantiate that claim. He's not going to.
Than men. And they say you have to look at it like women are marathon runners and men are power lifters. Therefore, women were better. It's not true. I don't know what they're trying to get at, but maybe back then.
So historically, scientists mostly agreed that that's not actually true. Historical scientists who study history don't ever 100% agree. But the general consensus is, and there are some people who disagree with this, but the general consensus is that early man's advantage in terms of hunting their prey, who normally were more dangerous than them, even most of the herbivores, was by running them down. And what that is when you essentially chase a creature until it becomes winded, because human beings have the ability to sweat, which means that their body can regulate its temperature better and they can run longer for a longer period of time than other animals, even though most other animals are faster than us. But we can run for longer. That's what the argument is going to be made, is that women have an advantage at long distance running, or at least early women did.
Or something. Men didn't want to go running, but my understanding.
No, that's just stupid, Tim. That's just stupid. What the fuck are you talking about?
Because I watched that when I watched a video about this Native American tribe where they run like hundreds of miles, like just full sprint and stuff like that. But let's read this. They say,
I'm just going to point out the fact that Native Americans are not cave people. I don't know if that has to be said, but genetically, cave people, early men and women would be physically different from us. They would probably all be physically stronger because they would need to be to survive. The idea that he would pull Native Americans into that conversation is Native Americans are literally thousands of years separated from early man.
If you envisage a prehistoric hunter, the vision of a caveman might spring to mind. But a new study claims that these cavemen paled in comparison to their female counterparts. Oh, wow. While women have long...
I would also point out that this is the Daily Mail's wording of this. I would need to look at the study to see how it was actually worded, because the media is notoriously bad at rewording science when presenting it to the public. So I'm just going to point that out.
Been seen as child rearers and gatherers and men as hunters, researchers from the University of Notre Dame have debunked this theory. No, they didn't. They've made a claim.
No, Tim, you're making a claim. Now, technically, they are making a claim as well. But since, you know, they study things and do research, there is a reason it would be more likely to believe their claims. Now, if you think that they don't have proper data, then you need to establish that.
The study found that not only did prehistoric men engage in the practice of hunting, they probably did, but their female...
Almost guaranteed, because of how unpredictably chaotic life would have been at that time. It is guaranteed that women would have had to hunt. There are so many things that could have put women in positions where they needed to hunt. This also makes a lot of us. Also, it's worth noting that early man didn't really understand pregnancy, so they might not have made the same assumptions about women that we make. Just saying.
Anatomy and biology would have made them intrinsically better suited for it. I completely disagree with that. That is a...
Based on what, Tim? Based on what? You have to have a counter argument. You have to have a counter argument. Do you have one?
Political statement. I do believe...
He does not. He just saying it's a political statement. But the thing about that is if you don't have a counter argument to data, then we have to assume, Tim, that you are the one making the political statement, because you have not presented a counter argument. Saying that something is a political statement and not truly science, when you have not debunked the science, is a political statement. You are the one doing it.
I do believe it's fair to say that women hunted. Sure, women hunt today. And it's probably 80-20. Go to any...
What would you base those numbers off of, Tim? Not even this study would be able to give you those numbers.
Oh, it's probably 80-20. Just cave people.
What? Tim, just pulling numbers out of your ass. In fairness, I can't expect Tim to understand, how statistics work, because he has almost no formal education. And no, you can't just pick up on statistics. I mean, I guess you could, but like, he hasn't presented any statistics.
Go to any hobby event. Bro, I'm sorry, man. Go to the skate park. 90% males. Good luck if there's a single female there.
Why are you comparing hobbies to survival? So, like, that's the thing. Like, this argument here is total horseshit.
Oh, go to the skate park, man. You'll notice it's mostly dudes.
It's like, okay. Why are you comparing hobbies to survival skills? Like, the people who hunt today are not like the people who used to hunt, because the people who hunt today in most cases are hunting for sport. Early man hunted for survival. It wasn't a choice. You're comparing hobbies, which are all optional choices, to necessities of survival, like hunting. Tim, that's not how you make an argument. Those aren't comparable things. They're not going to even out like this.
Go to a comic shop, a card shop. Go to the poker tables. It's the same. Yes, there are some women there. It's overwhelmingly dudes doing all of these things,
which are completely irrelevant to hunting for survival, Tim. The average person does not hunt for survival. Even like, Tim, if you need to eat, you're gonna hunt. If it's a survival situation, men and women will both learn how to hunt or they'll die. And back then, more women probably needed to know how to hunt, because so did more men. Tim, comparing hunting to card games, like, what is wrong? Are you a child? Like, what are you talking about?
I don't know what it is that women are doing. I don't hang out in spaces where there tend to be large groups of women. Perhaps they're shopping or something.
Tim, do you have a girlfriend? Because it is almost impossible to believe that you interact with women. Like, the things you say about women make it sound like you have never been in a room with a woman. Like I'm finding it hard to believe that you are a sexually active man. I mean, maybe you are. Maybe you hire prostitutes so you don't have to learn about women and you can just pay them to leave. Because that's what you pay a prostitute for. You pay them to leave. I didn't come up with that. It's not my bit. Let's move on. Tim Pool, what the fuck? Or there is a counter situation that could be happening here, which is that Tim Pool is just making these incredibly stupid, baseless statements about women because he wants to appeal to 14-year-old boys who don't know how to fuck. So he's either grifting or he himself is a 14-year-old boy who does not know how to fuck.
The argument is that shopping is akin to gathering, and the reason why men want to score objectives is that it's akin to hunting. I believe it makes infinitely more sense that as women work.
Where did he get that? Where did he get that? Where did he get that? Because first of all, shopping is an objective. Shopping is an objective. Shopping is literally an objective. Shopping is also not truly akin to gathering because shopping, especially the way he's using shopping here, is actually more in line with passive activities. And by that, I mean hobbies. I mean, sure, they're shopping for groceries. They're shopping for things you actually need. But the argument he's making would line up with how we get dopamine. And the fact of the matter is that everyone gets some level of dopamine from shopping. Also, what are you saying here exactly? Do you think that early man would just ignore a patch of berries because it wasn't hunting? Do you think that early man is just turning down food because it's not masculine or feminine enough for them? Here's the reality about early man, okay? According to scientists and archaeologists, from what we understand, most of them were based in their environment. If they were in a more vegetarian-friendly environment, they were probably vegetarian. If they were in an area where there were less plants and vegetables to eat, they would probably eat more animals because that's the omnivorousness that allowed human beings to survive. Our diets were based on our environment. Some early men did not have to hunt as much as others. Some early men did more gathering. And we know this because scientists have looked at the teeth of early men and we've been able to determine what they were eating. Not just from their shape and whatnot, but from actual DNA found in between their teeth from plants and animals. So everything he's saying here is just I think these things sound good against each other argument, but they don't actually have a real basis. He's building them on nothing.
Were gathering and men were hunting. This is why you have the trope of women shopping, because they're effectively going out and finding things to bring.
Shopping is not truly akin to hunting and gathering, and because for so many reasons. Also, there are men who like to shop. There are men who be shopping. In fact, just stereotypically, what is the thing we know about men? Oh, well, they like to buy power tools. Like that's a stereotype that is perpetuated through our society, is that when men do like to go shopping, but they like to go shopping at Lowe's. Like that's a thing that's put out there. Also, like men do be shopping. I personally kind of enjoy grocery shopping. I'm sure it takes up time out of my day, but it's something that's easy to accomplish and makes you feel like an adult for 20 minutes.
Things to bring back to the family that the family needs. I think it's admirable. I don't see anything negative about it. And I think it's silly that people are offended at the notion that women like to shop. This is a funny thing to me.
Because it's a stereotype, Tim. Because it's a stereotype. Because the world actually has women in it. They don't like to shop, and they hate being associated with all the women who do like to shop. That's how stereotypes work. I can't tell you for sure how many people are offended by it, but I will say personally, I think the concept of reducing women to being purely consumers in this capitalist hellscape is offensive.
Guys go work. They slay the boar. They bring the meat back.
Not a single job. Okay. almost no job that men have today is akin to this. Going to the office is not akin to hunting. It is not. It just isn't. Most of the jobs we do are more akin to agriculture, which probably was created by women. Although maybe it wasn't, because that kind of also would play into the stereotypes that he's talking about and not this hunting thing. But also, the people we're talking about here are pre-agriculture. There are so many other facets of society that would develop between these people and us that to sit around and try and make everything an analogy for hunting and gathering is literally just pseudo-intellectualism.
They give the family food. Women go out and collect things that are useful.
My dad was a major collector. Also, he mentioned comic books and card games earlier. People who read comic books and play card games are collectors. They are out there hunting and gathering, specifically gathering all the motherfucking time. I know this because I collect comic books, you dumb piece of shit. Men be collecting too, bro.
To the family. So if you look at this in like a 1950s sense of the wife shopping.
Why would you? Why would you? The difference between early man and the 1950s, one of the most industrialized ages in history, are so disparately different. We have evolved so much from that time frame and developed so much more culture and standards and attitudes and prejudice that the comparison to early man, whose major concern was, hey, if we don't chase this mammoth off a mountain cliff and then take its meat from the bottom, we're going to all starve to death this winter. And comparing that to the 1950s, which was an economic peak, at least for white people, in a period of history where technology just accelerated to this massive extent, shows how intellectually dishonest this is.
And the man working. Well, yeah, is the man going to go shopping for things the family needs?
He will if the woman dies. He will if there's something he wants to buy. Like, this is the thing. These concepts of locking us into our stereotypes, these concepts that, like, literally he is telling you, hey, don't develop that skill to survive, because that's a woman's skill to survive. You don't need that skill. Like, that's literally what he's saying here. I don't know if he's aware that's what he's saying, because I don't really think that his analogies here are well thought out enough for me to make that claim.
When he's at work? No, the guy's at work handling the new account for, the TPS reports or whatever.
Which is so much like hunting. Also, you've never filled out a fucking TPS report in your life, and I know that because it's just a reference from a movie. I don't know if TPS reports are actually real. I have worked in an office, but to be fair, I was a salesperson, so it's a little bit different. He's never worked in an office. Or at least in his PragerU video about hard work, he never mentions working in an office. Maybe Greenpeace had an office. I honestly don't know. He didn't mention one.
Then he comes home, he makes money, and the wife says, I'm going to go to the store.
These people didn't have money. The concept of money did not exist for these people. Everything was based on labor.
Store to pick up the groceries we need for food so we can have dinner. I think it's completely admirable. This trope's like, women like shopping. Well, women took it personally, got offended by it, when in reality it's like, dude,
Because to associate women with this because to force women into a box is what they don't like. No one wants to be told who or how they're supposed to be. It doesn't matter whether what you're telling them is positive or negative. Like, you can't just say all Asians know martial arts, even though knowing martial arts is fucking sick. Because it's not going to matter that it's a positive trait. You're telling a person who they're supposed to be before you know them. That's why stereotypes are considered offensive. It's not hard.
Like, dude, I hate going shopping.
You live in a fucking compound. You have your own fucking skate park. Are you telling me you never go shopping for boy toys? You've never gone shopping for skateboards. They just appear in your house.
I love it when there's just food. Like, you pick up the food, and then, I'll tell you the things that I like, and I appreciate it. But, I don't mind going to the grocery store with my girlfriend, stuff like that. But I've
heard rumors that this girlfriend exists. I don't know what's wrong with her. I don't know what's wrong with her that she would date Tim Pool. I also do not 100% know that she exists. I could Google it right now, but like at the same time, like what is this woman doing?
We're getting winter clothes, and I'm like, just grab me whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I'll try it on, and grab me whatever you think works. I appreciate that.
You let your woman dress you? Are you? Okay, don't get me wrong. If a woman buys you clothes, that's a good sign. It means she likes you. It means she cares. And you should definitely wear that stuff. But the idea, like, you don't dress yourself. Like, this is the type of male mentality that gets women pissed off. He's not describing having a wife. He's describing having a mommy. He's describing someone who will do the adulting for him. Because that's what having a mommy is versus having a partner. When you have a partner, you're agreeing to work with each other to do all the adulting together. He's talking about having a mommy who dresses him and feeds him while he's busy playing on his skate park and talking to all his friends. Leave me alone, mommy. I'm playing with the boys. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I will also say from all of this, I can tell that he's never worked in sales.
Look at this. They say, rather than viewing it as a way of erasing or rewriting history, our studies are trying to correct the history that erased women from it. Yes, that's right. Here you go. They just, what is this? Shutterstock, a woman with a spear, hunting.
Who gives a shit about the picture?
Hunting. Okay. So here's what they show, right? The female, the suite of features below confer an endurance activity advantage. I'm going to completely debunk this very, very, very easily. This is hilarious.
I can't wait to hear what arguments he has to put against science.
Better psychological pacing, greater fatigue resistance through central and peripheral neuromuscular mechanisms. Better insulin sensitivity can increase fatty acid oxidation and spare protein. Increased fatty acid oxidation through mechanisms involving estrogen and adiponectin. Estrogen impacts multiple aspects of athletic performance.
He doesn't even know. I'll admit, I don't know what adiponectin means, but that also means that I'm not going to sit here and make an argument against it without researching it, which is he's going to do.
Performance, increased fatty acid oxidation, blah, 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 decreased glycogen utilization, increased insulin sensitivity. I got to pause there and just, okay, I'm not going to absolutely debunk it. I'm going to counter it.
Gets into it, realizes he doesn't know what the fuck it's talking about, says he's not going to debunk it. You really thought this was going to be easy, didn't you, Tim? You really thought this shit was going to be easy.
With an argument. But I do want to point out, my immediate assumption on glycogen utilization is that that's a bad thing. You want glycogen utilization. Okay, so not a biological scientist or a nutritionist or any of this stuff. My understanding is when you eat food, when you eat carbohydrates, it converts into glycogen strings, which are stored, I believe, in the liver and then burned. It's not fat. It's like the sugar energy your body uses right away. Fat is then burned in a smaller percentage, so that there's a balance. If you're doing keto, you're basically burning nothing but fat, so your body burns its body fat quite a bit quickly.
By the way, keto is bad for you. Don't do keto. It's literally fucking bullshit. Your body is not designed to have no sugar.
And the reason why they argue against keto is because you do want to have body fat, and your body burns the sugars first. Long story short, if you're going to be doing a long distance run, you don't want you want to be burning your glycogen as well. I guess the argument is because women are burning fat when they run, they're able to run longer because of a slow energy burn compared to burning off all your glycogen. Ultimately, I think it makes very little sense. If you deplete either energy...
Tim, you're just doing pseudo-intellectualism here, man. You're just doing pseudo-intellectualism.
...source, then you're tired and you're not going to be able to run. So whether it's glycogen now and fat later or fat now and glycogen later, either way, you have the same amount of energy stores. But here's what they show.
No. Fun fact, grams of fat are more calories than sugar. Like, sugar and protein have lower, like, in terms of per gram calories, are smaller than fat. So, and once again, I'm not a scientist, and neither is he, but there is going to be a difference in how your body burns these. And burning the one that is a larger calorie mass per gram seems like the advantage to me.
Show men. Look at this, so much less. Larger heart and lungs, greater absolute muscle mass.
Because that's because that's what it's all about, right? How many things are on these little pictures?
More type 2 muscle fibers, increased glycogen utilization, testosterone increases muscle growth, greater number of red blood cells, which increases oxygen carrying capacity. So they say, when you look at human physiology, this way you can think of women as the marathon runners versus men as the power lifters. Well, I've got to simplify things for you, my friends. I'm just going to do this. Here's an article from runtothefinish.com. Are men faster than women? Gender difference in running. Okay, what do you think?
All right, so for another video, I actually looked up the like world records for marathon runners, and yes, men do dominate it, but we are talking about fucking cave women, not modern day women. Like literally, women at a certain point in history started being bred for how dainty they were. Like that would be how you, those would be the women that, those were the women that were pushed as attractive. It's over time going to give you weaker women specimens physically. I'm just going to throw that out there. Comparing this information about cave people to modern men and women is a very different thing. Also, it's worth noting, he didn't touch on this, but the reason that muscle mass and increased value of muscle mass, which is an advantage for men in certain areas, actually would physically make you run slower. Just so you're aware, being heavier makes it take more energy to run. Typically, the more muscular you are, the less nimble and agile you are. Which is why when people say Batman should be huge, there's always a part of me that goes, I don't think you understand what Batman does.
Okay, what do you think? Do you think women are the marathon runners or men are the marathon runners? I know.
First of all, we're talking about early man. We are talking about early man. And in fairness, I have actually seen a women power lifter fucking owning people at the, what's the one where it's like heavy things you hold at the sides? I can't remember. Seesaw? No, that's not right. But that's besides the point.
I know what you're already saying. But Tim, men have better marathon times. That's correct.
That is true. That is true. I actually just said that a second ago. Although it is worth noting that those numbers are actually very interesting because, yeah, the top 10 are all men. But like the 11th is a woman. Which means that there's a whole other section of men who are getting destroyed by women. Because the reality is that typically when women gain position in power or hierarchy, they are not displacing worthwhile men. They are typically displacing the men who are the lowest producers in society. So that's just a fun fact. So people like Tim Pool are often threatened by this.
More men run longer distance running event than women. That is also correct. Men run long.
But once again, these are also contemporary, our time period men and women who are vastly genetically different than early man. You have to understand that, right, Tim?
Longer distance. Yes, I get it. So today's argument, like women would actually be better hunters.
Although also being able to complete something faster is not inherently what being a long distance runner necessarily means. The actual implication here is that women would be able to run for longer, not faster. So the times don't actually matter. I just realized this. Holy shit. Yeah, no. The claim is that women can run for longer, just to be clear. Not that they run faster, but that they can run for longer. They're going to become fatigued slower than men because the way estrogen helps your muscles recover.
Dude, come on, man. Look, I think women should be in sports. I think women should play sports. I think women are extremely capable.
He's just trying to pretend like he is a liberal right now. He is not.
I think it's entirely possible that there are some women who are going to be large, strong, and can crush the average male at any one of these events.
In fairness to Tim, this actually makes him, his recognition of this fact actually makes him more reasonable than a lot of people in the red pill space, which it seems like he's trying to move into, which is weird because everywhere I turn on the internet, they say red pill is dying. So he's timed it poorly, if either of those things are true.
The saying goes that a determined woman is stronger than the average man, but a determined man is stronger than a determined woman. That is not to insult.
I have never heard this saying. Doesn't mean it's not a saying. But anytime there's a saying about something, there's always the possibility that it's a reinforcement of bullshit. Because you've all heard the term, absence makes the heart grow fonder, but that's totally the opposite of out of sight, out of mind. So which one of those is true? Yeah, common sense sayings like those are bullshit, just so you're aware.
Insult women. Men can't create life. They can contribute to the process, and then women literally create the...
And of course, we're going to reduce it all to women giving birth, which is meaningless to this conversation. Meaningless. Has no value.
Babies. That is not something to take lightly. But as we're getting in...
Yeah, no one takes it lightly, especially not dudes. It is clear that dudes are obsessed with the fact that women can give birth and they can't. I swear to God, I think a lot of men would like to be able to. I swear to God, I think a lot of men would like to be able to just by the way they whine about it.
Into this era where people have disdain for humans and want there to be less, it does diminish women. Here we go.
Wow, he just packed a lot of weird concepts into one sentence there, which I'll give him props for that. I don't inherit. Okay, I'm not going to open the overpopulation can of worms. Because a lot of people who say that overpopulation is not a concern are not taking into the way that society scales, like how much space it takes for one human being to exist is not just their physical space. It's also how much land do they need for their car, for their animals, for their house? How much land does it take to feed these people? How much resources does it take to feed these people? How much land will it take to make the resources to feed these people? The concept of overpopulation is not just about the number of people, but the amount that it requires to maintain that number of people. I said I wasn't getting into it, and I just spewed it at you. But let's move on.
Male versus female running times.
Once again, the claim is that women can run for longer, not faster. Those are different things and different advantages. And yes, if you're running down an animal to eat it, running for longer is more important than running faster.
Tina considers the difference between men and women. She recalls the many occasions in college where she destroyed some of the guys on the team in every workout. Yet somehow they would run 15:30 5K and she would run 16:10. How is it fair? What are the few major differences? Blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, women are at a disadvantage from the start due to a few biological factors, but there are also some potential advantages to being female that you may not have considered. And I believe this is absolutely true.
Literally what the study was saying. Also, once again, we're looking at times, not distance.
They say, let's look at some of the top running times to first understand why there's an assumption that men are faster. Currently, that's because at common distances, they hold faster times. It's likely due to a combination.
Once again, the advantage that is implied about cave women is the distance, not the time.
Of biology and more time of men being able to compete in the sport. We see with each passing...
He just said some important things there that he's going to totally breeze by, but
passing year that these numbers are being lowered by both genders. I do think there is probably going to be a valley or inflection point where we actually see women improve over men. Why? Because men and women are different. And there's always advantages and always disadvantages.
He is saying a lot of nothing right now. In fairness, that nothing is at least acknowledging that his argument is not complete.
Marathon time. Men have a nearly 18-minute lead. Half marathon. Men have like a 5-minute lead. 10K. Men have a 3-minute lead. 5K. It put 8,200. I don't know the math times. At a mile, men have a near 30-second advantage. Marathon's crazy. A mile distance, I believe they're doing minute here. And the marathon they're doing by hours. 2 hours, 1 minute, 39 seconds. So across the board, men are just beating women. This isn't opposed to pit men versus women and find a winner. Instead, we're looking for physiological differences that might help us understand why ladies can train for months.
But once again, we are talking about athletes versus early man. There are going to be physiological and biological differences between cavemen and athletes today. I shouldn't have to say this, Tim. I shouldn't have to say. The way you are trying to use your logic here doesn't work. You are trying to build from what we know now backwards without taking into account the different data and information that would be there.
And our male friends can come join us without a single training run and keeping up. Heart size, hormones. Here they say hormones are negative. Men can carry more oxygen. How are they even trying to make an argument that women were better hunters? This is the point. Okay? They're trying to make a...
Notice that he has not actually talked about what prehistoric hunting involved at any point in this. He also hasn't brought up the fact that once you create long-distance weapons, hunting fundamentally changes. I mean, think about it, right? Nowadays, when people hunt with a gun, they're not running. Most of the time, they're sitting quietly. These same things are true of people who hunt with blowguns and bow and arrows. And there were also other prehistoric long-distance weapons as well. Neither him nor the study has talked about the exact methods of hunting. It has mentioned the early woman's long-distance running ability, but that is not the same as throwing a spear at something, which is different. None of the arguments are lining up. Can you see what I'm saying?
To make a political statement. In the body fat section, they say women are predisposed.
He has not proven that they're just making a political statement. He has not proven that because that is a claim that is actually very difficult to prove. He would have to prove on some level that the studies were fraudulent. Now, that's a thing that's doable, but I don't think it's a thing that Tim Pool can do.
Supposed to hold more body fat. So the average marathon time for males is 4:22, and the average marathon time for women is 4:47. Oh, okay, there you go. I don't know what the other chart was. Due to body fat? No, but again, part of the things they say it's...
The other were records, and these are averages. The others were records, Tim, and these are averages. Those are very different things.
Extra weight on the body means the female has to work much harder. But hold on. The other one said that decreased glycogen and increased fat burning was good for women and made them better at hunting. You see, this is...
He's not really discussing it. He's decontextualizing everything about prehistoric people and putting it in the context of modern men and women.
The political nature of modern science. Sorry, dude. I'm not trying to rag on women. Women can create human life. Males...
Stop coming back to this. Women don't care that you believe that. Don't get wrong. Women's ability to make a baby is one of the most amazing, important things in the world in terms of humanity. But when you essentialize women who are individuals and people into a baby machine and say like, hey, that's your trump card, no one is going to appreciate that. They're not going to appreciate that. Get that into your head. Being able to make babies is not a compensation for any other skill. Like, what is the problem here? Because women can make babies, then you believe that men have to have all these abilities to make them better or equal to women? It's a bad argument. Shut the fuck up.
Males cannot. Males contribute biological matter to the creation of human life, but literally without women...
Saying it twice. He's saying it twice.
Women, there's no more humans. So I'm not surprised women aren't going to be running as far or as fast or hunting bears. Political nonsense. Political nonsense. I'll leave it there.
That statement does not line up with the ability for running and hunting. Okay. All right. Muscle weighs more than fat is another thing. I don't know how relevant it is to anything that's actually happening here, but I will just point that out, that muscle weighs more than fat. Oh my God, Tim. Oh my God. Oh, Tim. Tim. What the hell are you doing? So, like, the thing about that is that Tim is mostly working from his feelings. He's having an emotional reaction to a paper that he doesn't actually understand. He's making an argument based off of numbers and statistics that don't actually matter because he's comparing modern athletes to fucking cave people. Tim, I'm begging you to go out and get an education. Because you're just misinforming the world about things. Like, I'm not a scientist. I would never sit here and claim that, oh, these scientists are wrong. because of my feelings, because that's what that was. That was all about your feelings, Tim. You tried to back it up by talking about modern marathon runners who are genetically not cave people. Like they're not early man. That's very different physically in numerous ways. You're not taking into account, you're not taking into account the fact that this data is from archaeological findings, because that's what it's from. Oh, fucking Tim. Now, in fairness, he only got it from the Daily Mail, and the Daily Mail article actually honestly seemed pretty lacking. But as I was saying, Tim did not successfully substantiate his main claim. His main claim being that this is a political move. He tried to create a counter argument towards it via using the sports statistics. However, said it multiple times about the early man genetic differences. At the same time, he fails at any point to establish that the study is political in nature. Because having a counter argument to the study's argument, even if his counter argument wasn't trash, would still not prove that the article was political. It would still not prove that the studies were being made politically minded. It would only prove that there is a counter argument. And that's not the same thing. It does not establish his basic premise here that woke scientists are behind this. Scientists can be wrong. At a certain point, you have to ask, what is the difference between lying and being wrong? Well, there's a pretty big difference. When you're lying, you're deliberately trying to mislead people. When you're wrong, you made some mistakes, or you didn't understand, or you listened to Tim Pool for all your information. All right, well, thanks for listening to Ruben Uncut. Hope you enjoyed yourself. Please like and subscribe on the YouTube channel, and please follow on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Ruben. Have a wonderful whatever, wherever, whenever you are.